Yep.
Oh.
Oh, yes, yes,
There
yes,
we
now.
go.
Yeah.
Just a little slow. Just a little slow. Hello, Erica Jane. Hello, 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 hello.
Hi there.
Ah, how are you, Erica? How are you? How are you?
Really well. How are the two of you doing?
Yes, very well, thank you. Oh, I like what you're sitting on. That looks very exciting.
It's very comfy.
Yeah, it's one of those, what do they call them again?
The Papazan chair.
Papazan. That's right. That's right. I think of them as Sedona chairs, but anyway. Yeah, well, they like stuff like that in Sedona. So.
Right.
It's got a fancy name, then they like it. So. Yeah. You want to sell anything, give it a fancy name that sounds cool, like quinoa. There you go. People love quinoa.
Right.
That's the name. I'm telling you, if that stuff was called rice grain, or whatever.
Right.
You want it's the name. It's the name. Before we get going, Erica Jane, is there any chance that I could ask Joe a question for a second?
He is out in the garage apartment, but I can text him.
Because it's something Kay said. He mentioned, and that when I was having the connection thing, that he said, "Oh, Sol needs to get a booster," and I've been researching, and I actually ordered one. It's not too late for me to cancel it, but since Joe knows about this stuff, and since I've now ordered one, I want to just get some input from him on this. But we can wait until if he's going to be coming around. We don't have to do it right now. So.
Yeah, let me look. He's out in the garage apartment. We've been doing all kinds of work out there trying to get it ready for Mom.
Yeah, this is what Kay said, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And particularly what makes me excited is that Kay's home, her house, can get leveraged to do Airbnb like on the weekends.
Right, absolutely.
And, this will be transformative for Kay. Just that bit of extra income, and she's going to be surprised at it's more than people think usually, but this is be huge for Kay, because this is what I've been hoping for the longest time. So this is all just really magical, all working together.
Absolutely.
Very, very cool. Very, very, very cool. So this is brilliant. This is really brilliant.
Okay, I just texted him, so we'll see.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
I've been helping him the last couple of days, but he's out there on his own right now. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'm glad you've been helping him too. And too, the other thing, like I said to Kay, that you guys helping Kay to get this up, it's an investment in everybody, Right. And I love this, that you're investing in Kay, but in yourselves as well, in your future and all of this. So this is a fantastic deal all around. It's really, really magical. So there's a lot of benefit to this. So let me know when you guys are ready, and I'll do everything I can to help you guys get set up on Airbnb and all that, So
wow, I appreciate
expertise and that old spreadsheet and everything. So
yeah.
Lots of fun. Yeah, that'd be very nice to do. Yeah. All right, brilliant. All right, so where have you been at?
Lie down. Go lie down. Thank you. Sorry, Sarah came down here.
Oh, that reminds me. With Kay and she was saying about getting absorbed into moods inadvertently, like being irritated or whatever. And I meant to say some of that comes from Sarah, a bit of a habit associated with Sarah.
Yeah.
So just I'll bring it up. You can share it with Kay at some point. But also instead of telling Sarah to do this, that, and the other, to ask her. To ask her to do things. Yeah? Instead of telling. Oh, I'm on the Wi-Fi. What's going on? It should be stable. We were stable all the time with Kay. Right.
So to ask her something instead of telling.
To ask Sarah or ask Tank. Now, right, it might not work with Tank so much, but nonetheless, well, it will work for Joe, not necessarily for you. Right, and it will work with Kay and Sarah, maybe with you and Sarah, I don't know. But to shift the underlying intent, if you are asking Sarah or Tank to do something because it will make you happy, their compliance now is like, oh, I'm doing something to make you happy. So this is a change in the underlying intent and the underlying mood set. And
Right.
it's not that resentment that comes from being told all the time, So
Right.
now you're going to have to ask in a particular way, that because there is a conditioned association to authority. So you're going to have to ask in an authoritative way. But nonetheless, I do feel the underlying shift of intent. It might take a bit of time to shift the habit, but I do think it might yield very positive results. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that concept.
it's certainly worth trying. For regardless of how well it works with like Sarah or Tank, but it's certainly worth doing for your own mood management and habit shifting.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I noticed that with Kay, she's not even aware, but Sarah does stuff and she responds in an irritated way. Yeah. It's a default association already, right? So it's just good to be aware. It's one of those daily habits, those perpetual habits that we can do differently to leverage us into overview perspective and connect us to our dictionary of power and moreness. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. Oh, all right. So where have you been at? Where have you been at?
Well, that's what I was asking you. What have you guys been up to?
The researching, just, looking at land and property, and I was researching the boosters, which was a whole rigmarole, Erica Jane?
Yes.
I looked up to try and say, I don't want to wait for shipping. I want this thing now. I'm quite happy to drive down to Phoenix if I need to go and buy it. I cannot find an app or a program that will let me find something in stores locally. There were some, apparently, and Google made a whole special thing, but it's no longer available.
Interesting.
And the ones that kind of sort of are, they were horrible. And they brought up backpacks and all sorts of things, Baby chairs. Okay, it's a boosted chair, I guess, but and I put in the exact name of the particular thing that I ended up ordering. So this is fascinating to me that I cannot find stuff offline, that's local in my stores. Apparently, Google had this app to counter Amazon for exactly people like me who don't want to wait for the shipping. So it's amazing. Anyway, so fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. So I have to wait until Saturday. So
Sarah.
Yeah, that's like a whole month away.
Supposed to be.
Or at least for me.
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow. So other than that, just looking at the different properties, I'm just going through the whole list within the range, and then saving all the ones that are potential, and then once I've go through all the saved ones, you eliminate and you fine tune it, and then go look at them physically, because you got to see if you can what's going on it physically, but also very particularly to see if I get cell phone service there.
Right.
That's very important.
True.
So, if they don't have a phone line or something, but even if they do, you still want to have that. So anyway. So this is what's up. And it's kind of fun to look through it all, but it's very slow though. It's very time consuming. Other than that, having fun. So we had magical sessions today, right, Beena? Yeah, we had a big P session. All the P words.
Nice.
With Janelle earlier. Yeah. So that's very cool.
I like it. What about you, Beena? What have you been up to?
I've actually been busy with about writing about happiness. And doing research about that, and also some other few concepts also, which are really interesting for me. And also I just to understand more what really is, how people actually do all these things, like these coaching and all that. I have joined a free workshop course, 6 weeks, and I have joined this, and today it started. So that thing, and all neurographic designing and drawing. So, and also now, after very long, I actually started reading some books and I bought some and then I start reading. So that a lot of things are happening. Days are becoming short for my projects now.
Right.
Yes, 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 yes.
I change my calendar and just dedicate some time for my reading also, that okay, this from this hour to this hour I will just shut down everything and will read.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
Yeah.
on that Beena's side project of etymology, she looked up
Mm-hmm.
the word happy or happiness to see what its etymology is. And she discovered, most interestingly, that hap, it's based on the root word hap. Now, most of our root words in English are, either French or Italian, or not Italian, Latin, German.
Right.
But this comes from Norwegian or Scandinavian origin, and the word hap means lucky or luck.
Ah.
Yeah, so luck really. So happiness is something, at least in that understanding, that was a consequence of luck.
Yeah.
And it makes kind of sense if you're living a hard life and it's a bit miserable and most of the time you're not happy. And when you are happy, it's due to luck. This is a profound connectivity. And, when we connect this to mood management, that implication that happiness is a lucky state of affairs, it's also by direct implication that happiness comes from outside of you, because
Right.
luck doesn't come from inside of you. It's an external thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when
And
we
that it's
connect this, we say, whoa, this word happiness, no, not for me, sorry. I choose my moods. I make my luck. I'm in charge, not external events. So this is just a nice little connectivity that it rounds out what we've already decided, but it's nice to know that origin, it's a default belief that happiness comes from outside. It's even rooted in the word itself. Isn't that amazing? So, very cool, Beena. Very cool. Right.
But there is of course there is always more,
Yes.
and in that some of the root meanings of happiness was happy means wise, and that was really interesting for me. And I said, okay, so yesterday we were me and Sil and I was sharing that what I think about that, how because everybody say that happiness is inside. Of course we also say that, but this is actually not happiness is inside. We talk about peace, because peace comes from the perspective deliberate living, making deliberate choices so that you can be at peace with. Peace is not happiness. So, okay, what happiness is, and they said, oh, this is something you can get from outside. So if we assume that the word wise means happy, it means that wise is not a very smart term for that, but I feel that it is about awareness. Because when you acquire or you get aware of something by chance, okay, you can lucky in that also, that it is about being aware, that state of being where you feel aware of what is actually happening to you, around you, inside you, is the state of being happy.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be by chance, because not necessarily we do effort, we put effort into being aware. Sometimes awareness just happens and come to us. So I'm just going through all the possible ideas of happiness. Because again, that was the first question I asked Sil. Like, I don't like this word. People say that, oh, you need to be happy. Like, how can I just crack 5 inches smile all the time?
Right.
Oh, I cannot. And he says, no, Beena, it is something different. Happiness is not cheerfulness or joyfulness. And it makes sense, total sense to me. That yes, and now I can be very serious, but can be happy. Like when I'm watching a serious movie or reading a book or doing my work. So happiness is a different thing. And now we are coming to that happiness is being lucky. Happiness is being wise. So it makes sense a bit. Okay, of course, I'm just writing about this, but when we get aware by chance or deliberately, in both senses, that is a state of being which is called by other people or us happiness, because it's happening. And happening is also, in other words, is another word for life. And life is, again, we are coming to living. So it is all coming into make sense to me that happiness is actually being aware, because you can make choices now. Yeah. So this is really interesting. It is getting more interesting the more I'm just trying to go into detail.
And what you just said made me think about some of the stuff I've been listening to this morning has been talking about expectations again, and sort of being in acceptance of what's happening in the present moment, instead of having expectations about what are going to happen, or expectations about what has happened and that's causing you problems. And thinking about happening in that sense, that happening is present, it's present tense. It's not what happened or what's going to happen. It's what's happening right now.
Yes, that's why I say that this is life, because you cannot say that, oh, I was alive in that time. I am alive. The whole concept is being in that present moment.
Right.
Again, it is making more connections for me. I'm getting really excited about this, because when I was writing about sharing and telling, I was the conclusion for me, the key word for me, or you can say that a term or explanation, was sharing is something which can happen in present moment only. And telling is something about the past tense, in the past. Because if I'm telling you about something, it means that right now I'm not in that state of being. It happened to me, or it happened somewhere, but when it comes to sharing, this is something right now I am. This is something right now I am feeling, I am living. Otherwise, how can I share? So sharing is always right now in this moment.
Yeah.
To make whole sense to me that whatever we share is, and then we say that, oh, it is for me. Because any perspective is not final, not the ultimate one. There is always more. So when we share, it is about this moment. And what I can share, because if just make it physical thing, what I can share, whatever I can have right now in this moment, in my hand, in my custody, in my control. Otherwise, I cannot share. And if I don't have something and I'm trying to share, it means that I'm telling.
Yeah.
So this was really interesting. And as you mentioned that the present right now in this moment, life is right now in this moment.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's such an interesting connection between happiness.
Exactly.
And the present moment, that, happiness and being attuned to what is happening.
Yes.
Going to happen.
Yes.
Happening right now.
Yes. Yeah. So I need to amend what I said. Hap, as in luck, is one of the roots of happy. One of the others, hap means wise, right, Beena?
Yes.
So if you take happening
in
the moment, it takes wisdom.
Exactly.
To connect the present moment, ongoing happeningness, to convert it into happiness, to joy.
That happeningness.
You need wisdom to make that happening a joy.
Yeah.
So
awareness,
it's a whole big treasure box I have.
Yes, most decidedly.
Yes.
Very magical, Beena. Very magical.
Yeah.
Very magical. Marvelous. So please add that to your dictionary of power, this understanding. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes, I'm writing about this, sir. I'm writing about it. Yeah.
Good.
Joe just walked in.
Oh, brilliant. Let's ask him, please, if you don't mind.
There he is.
So don't forget. Joe, you mentioned about the booster. What can you tell me about cell phone boosters? I ordered one, but I'm just looking to flesh out my research, because obviously this is something that I need. I didn't hear you make that comment, but Kay mentioned it. So
the term cell booster is a little misleading. It doesn't actually, it doesn't increase the signal, right? It only takes the signal it can pick up outside.
Yes. Yes.
If there's no signal outside, there's
Correct.
nothing to boost.
That's what I understood. Yeah. Yeah. And also it's different to a Wi-Fi booster. Two different things.
Yes.
Yeah. And also different to antennas in general, right?
Yeah. Did yours come with, do you know if it came with an omnidirectional antenna or a Yagi antenna?
Oh, I believe it's omnidirectional because it's made specifically for cars and RVs and trucks. So it would have to be omnidirectional, you would imagine. Yeah. Yeah. I forget the name of it now, but I can look it up.
Yeah, they're not overly complicated to install. They don't require that much power, but they do require typically just a regular 120 volt outlet.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's I have a inverter which I can run it from. So yeah, well I've got a couple of them. So very
this will work fine.
All right. So there wasn't anything very magical and complicated about this. That anything more than just obvious. All right. Cool. Brilliant.
Yeah, they're just really simple devices. They're kind of a hassle to install. You gotta poke a couple of holes in your trailer.
Yeah. Well, these are made to be portable, and I think the one that I have, the antenna is a magnet actually, and then it's got the cable down to the cradle. It's just a single one, and you put your phone in the cradle, and that's it. That's how you get the boost. So, yeah, that's pretty simple. So, some people they don't even install the antennas on the roof. They just put them in the window. So, because I generally get signal, I just don't get it strong enough. And even if I leave the phone in exactly the same place, the signal goes, you can see the little bars moving around. So, it fascinates me. You would think it would be consistent, but anyway, it's not so. So I figure the booster will at least help, right?
Yeah, it should help make it a little more consistent. If you don't have the booster, right, you can become subject to all kinds of different interference.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll hope. If it doesn't work, I'll send it back. Find some other solution. All right. I just thought maybe there was a bit more to it, but it is pretty simple, as you say. So, yeah. Are the ones that are not omnidirectional or focus direction? I would assume once you get them installed, if you're in a more permanent spot, this would be a more efficient. Yeah.
They would. Yeah. They'll give you a better signal. They're typically stronger.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out where the tower, where your nearest tower is.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of apps that can help you with that. But it's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. No, I do want the omnidirectional one because sometimes I do want to be driving, and I like to be on Zoom while I'm driving. I love it. It's fantastic. So it's really cool. But and I have had opportunity where I did get kind of a long stretch, but still you get that not so cool. So yeah, so the omnidirectional will really help. Yeah. Very cool. All right, brilliant. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, man. Thank you.
It works for it.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'll let you know. I'm getting it on Saturday, so we'll see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Brilliant.
Later.
I love the love. Very romantic side to me. So brilliant. Very cool.
No dogs. You're staying here. No one is going outside.
Please, dogs, stay here.
Yes.
Make me happy. Comfort me. Keep me company.
Yeah. I love. Oh my. Okay. Let's settle down. I love what we were talking about with Beena. That's so interesting, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your musings on it, Beena, when you get everything written up.
Yes. Seeing the post and everything. Yeah, it's very potent. All right. So what have you been thinking about, Eric? We got some hints and clues from Kay, but we need this full skinny. We need details.
All right, so I lost some of that in the middle. You need details on what?
On what you've been thinking about.
Okay. No. Go lie down, please. Thank you. Sorry. we're situating the dogs here because they're
it's all good. Yeah, I was saying those roofers, I don't know, in my mind they're more like a band of brigands, like a bunch of pirates out there. Yeah. I don't know why I feel like they're that way. But,
I see.
yeah, and just that's the impression they create. It's dogs of Christian's wife, my friend's wife. So one little dog, I don't know, it just barks at me all the time for no apparent reason. So the other one is friendly, and it came up to me and it sniffed my hand, and then it starts barking. It's like, oh no.
They do that. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. Yeah, just got next to me somehow.
Yes. So my latest musings I have been continuing to listen to Dr. Shefali's book, which has been so fascinating and really causing me to think about lots of interesting things. Continuing to do a lot of thinking about feelings and expectations from last week and all that. But I was listening to this really interesting video from Dr. Shefali this morning that has really had me thinking, and it's so fascinating because, again, this is one of those things for me that is profoundly simple and obvious and very much a duh, but framing it in the way that she did has made me think about this in such a different way. It's been really fascinating. So this video I was watching, she was talking about pain and suffering, and that basically, pain, actual pain, is painful. There's really not a lot you can do to avoid the pain of actual pain, but suffering, it's, continuing to suffer after having experienced something painful, that is really born out of expectation and attachment. And it's so fascinating, all of the things that she's gone into. She basically said, I was taking notes while I was listening to stuff this morning, and one of the things I wrote down was, pain is painful, but the reason we suffer from pain is because we were attached to an expected outcome of how things should have been, and this illusion has become shattered. So she was saying, when we're suffering from something, that it's because we're resisting reality, basically. And it's so interesting. Like she was talking about the pandemic, and she was saying, okay, yes, there have been painful things for many people that have come out of the pandemic, but the reason that we continue to suffer from these things is because we have in our heads that they shouldn't be happening. We don't want to have to wear a mask. We don't want to have to do this and that. We don't want our kids to be at home and not be in school. We don't want this. We don't want that. And so it leads to this kind of continuous suffering over our expectations of how things should be. That hasn't come to pass. And so we're resisting what actually is. And she said, the thing that was like a major duh for me, but that was such an interesting, the way she framed it really made me think about it, was anything beyond the present moment exists within your mind. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, like, duh. I mean, yeah, basically any recollection that you're having of a moment from the past that's not happening right this second exists in your mind. It's not happening right now. It's not reality right now. It's in your mind. And therefore, you have control over how it affects you. And it was like, well, duh, yeah, of course, any memory that you're having of a past experience is in your head. It's a memory. But that's such a fascinating way of looking at it for me. Like she said, in other words, a pinch, when you are actually being pinched, that is painful. But the suffering following a pinch lives within your mind, and it's ultimately a choice.
Yes.
It was saying our mind is still attached to the moment of the past. And so when you make the shift from what was or what could have been to what is, then your suffering automatically decreases. And that really suffering after pain is just resisting the reality of now. And that whole concept has just been, I've been thinking about that all morning. That's so fascinating to me, thinking about suffering in that way, that pain in the moment, something that is hurtful, any like physical pain or emotional pain, any type of pain in the moment is absolutely painful. It's not something, it's something you're experiencing. But when you're dwelling on that and continuing to suffer from that experience, it's because of an expectation that you had of how things should have gone, and they didn't. And so you are choosing that suffering by choosing to remain in that place instead of just being present with what's happening right now. And that is such a fascinating concept to me, and that has so many overreaching implications, I think, of I mean, like I was thinking about, therapy and the various number of things that people go to therapy for, and 99.9% of it is for things that have happened in the past, not for things that are happening to us right now. And what a fascinating, incredibly powerful, but incredibly simple concept, that all of those things that happened to you in the past, yes, they were painful for you in the moment, but why is it continuing to cause you a problem? Because you expected something else than what actually happened. And you're continuing to relive that over and over again. That, well, this shouldn't have happened, and it could have gone this way, or it should have gone that way. And to recognize that that is just happening within your own mind. Nothing, there is nothing that's happening right now that's causing you to feel that pain that happened way back. It's not happening. It's not happening anymore. You pay attention to what's happening right now. That is really powerful and really interesting.
And if we go into it from the PSP perspective, just that psychology, and that, well, it's all connected to that particular psychology. There are many reasons why people cling to pain in the past. For one thing, it makes them feel special. Right. So pity is a leveraged way to feel special. Right? Something happened to me. It was unfair. If it's unfair, this makes me special. And it's an excuse to justify my failures, my inabilities, my not being truly special. So all of these past pains, they get emphasized as this excuse, as this justification, this rationale for, well, I would have been special, truly special, if it hadn't been for this and that, for this unfairness, this bad luck, etc., etc. So there's many reasons why people do that, and some of it is just plain indulgence. They get hooked on the sympathy and the empathy, and they want to bring that back again, and they do. And you poor baby, this poor baby psychology, it's a very big deal. Many people are very hooked to the poor baby logic. They want to hear that again and again and again.
Right.
It's amazing. So yes, clinging on to pain from the past is definitely an immersion into a bubble for many different reasons, and most of them indulgent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Powerful. It's good to understand. And again, too, the question is not how are you feeling, but how are you choosing to feel.
Right.
So, Beena, we need to get back to that habit again. We did shift to that, and then we got out of it a little bit to say, how are you? But I guess it's implied by now, right, Beena? When we say, how are you, we mean, how have you chosen to feel? So when we really make this a habit, when you do feel in a way that's not optimal, then the question isn't why am I feeling this way, but why have I chosen to feel this way?
Right, right. Yeah,
The moment, yeah.
That was one of the things that Dr. Shafal said at the very beginning of this video was, when you're going through inner turmoil, ask yourself, what was I attached to?
Yes.
Which is really fascinating that, you know, if you're feeling really crappy, what was it that you were attached to that didn't come to be? You know, what expectation did you have that didn't come to be? And I think that, for me, recognizing that your mood is connected to your expectations. And so if you let go of your expectations and choose, okay, you know, it doesn't matter what happened or didn't happen or what I thought was going to happen. I can create my mood. I can choose what's going to be, that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. That's the deliberate living responsibility. To say, man, the moment I start living deliberately and take responsibility, assume full responsibility for everything, by implication, that includes my moods.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not feeling the way I want to feel, I only have myself to blame. Yeah, sometimes I like complaining, just relieves a bit of pressure, but it's a bad habit. It's a really terrible habit. It's
Right.
really a poor habit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not cool. Not cool. Right?
Agree. Yep. I agree.
Now, talking about agreeing and understanding, I am keen to ask on what Dr. Shafali was saying. What's your opinion, your perspective on it?
On what specifically? On
Anything. Anything.
Well, I think I've been doing lots and lots of thinking about expectations over the last few weeks. And that's been a really big one for me, of recognizing how expectations drive virtually everything. That, you know, our expectations of how things are going to go, of how people are going to be, of how we think things are going to go. And, you know, we were talking last week about, there certainly are appropriate expectations, and that's sort of how we are wired to observe and understand our environment, is through probability and observation and strategy. So there are certainly appropriate expectations, but to remember that there's always more. So just because we might think something's going to happen, there's not a 100% certainty that our expectations are going to come to be. So leaving the room for more, I think, helps with what Dr. Shafali was saying about you know, being attached to an expectation. And when we have an expectation that gets burst, then we experience this turmoil and suffering. So if you recognize expectation as a leveraging tool and something that allows you to strategize and be appropriate in your environment, but it's not a guarantee, it's not a 100% given that anything that you expect is going to happen is actually going to happen, then if it doesn't come to be, it's not earth-shattering for you, it's not world-changing, you know, it doesn't turn you upside down. You're always leaving room for the possibility that something completely unexpected is going to happen. And that's okay. Just be present with that and experience what's happening and move forward. So yeah, I think it's really interesting, the concept of being aware of the fact that in virtually every moment we have, in every moment, in every interaction, in everything, we have somewhere we have an expectation, at least one, of how things are going, and just being aware of that and sort of handling that appropriately, or getting ourselves in the right state of being to be adaptable and adjust if our expectations don't come to be.
Right. So would you say when it comes to expectations, it's legitimate to expect more always?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I do. I feel that way. There's always more. And I build that into my expectations. And furthermore, would you also say that in terms of your understanding that awareness creates reality, that we are part of the reality creation process?
Right.
Would you say expectations is part of this?
I certainly think so, to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, just from a pure psychological point of view, not in any physics or metaphysical way or any way like that, right? And just from a purely psychological point of view, if you expect a meeting to go badly, you cue it and you relate to that. What's the word? Self-proving.
Uh,
Bias.
like confirmation bias or something.
Confirmation bias, right? Exactly. So that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, confirmation bias,
Yeah.
right? So when we understand this, we say, wow, wait a second, my expectations psychologically make a massive difference on what's going on. And
Right.
when it comes to people, expectations are profoundly transformative.
Mm-hmm.
You expect somebody to be a knucklehead, and well, they'll generally help you out, right? But expect them to be more, and especially when the more is open, when
Mm-hmm.
you just expect sensibility, basic goodness, niceness from them, not an expectation that puts a pressure on them, but an expectation that they can meet and that's positive. That's a big deal. People love that. It really opens them up and transforms them. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a very, very powerful and magical expectation. That's fantastically transformative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
must be thirsty. I must be a little dehydrated because I wasn't remembering that word.
Oh boy.
Mm. Oh dear, where's Beena? Beena dropped off.
Oh,
So,
we lost it.
who knows? Something happened. That happens. It happens. Yeah, expectations are a big deal, and particularly those expectations of others. It
Right.
takes some skill to have an appropriate expectation. Actually, the dogs are good examples
Mm-hmm.
of where we can practice expectation management. It's astounding how they respond to expectations.
Right. Right.
It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing.
It's true.
Really good to practice on them,
Mm-hmm.
to experiment and see. They're quite amazing how they respond to expectations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Very cool.
I agree.
People, especially like I said, when you kind of think it through, I was like, how do I want to, uh, leverage my interactions with others to the maximum? In other words, what would be optimal and impeccable expectations? And this is important because we can have expectations of people being good and nice and all this, and they can feel it as a pressure.
Right.
So, this is, we have to balance that with expecting some sort of positivity and sensibility, but that the expectation that I perceive you to actually be more. This is
Mm-hmm.
a very powerful expectation because that, not that you are more and that you will be more, but that I perceive you to actually possess moreness.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to bring it out, but I understand that to be there. And now I provide you this opportunity to exercise that. And I'm going to relate to you as if you're a nice person, regardless of how you respond and behave. And this leverages people incredibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because they say, wow, here's somebody who actually sees my realness, and I
Mm-hmm.
now have an opportunity to behave according to my realness. They almost expect it, but not in a pressure way, in a just a default automatic way. So I can be me, I can be real, and I can have my flaws and faults, all of them combined. It doesn't matter, because it's all
Right.
good. And this is a very subtle, very nuanced, very layered expectation, but it's one
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless. But it's and as a queuing, it's unbelievable,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It's very nuanced, and it takes a lot of skill, and it's a moreness that you are doing much more than you are required to do. So it takes lots of extra effort. It's an act of nobility, really,
Mm-hmm.
to give that a very particular benefit of the doubt. It's not a default. It's not a blind. It's not blanket. It's very nuanced. It's very skilled. But boy, oh boy, it is potent. It is really, really potent.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very cool.
I agree.
You're not interacting with people all that much, yes?
Right.
Yeah. But when you do get opportunity um, to interact uh, with new people, practice this, experiment a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and let me know how it goes. I'm very keen to
Okay.
hear.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it will be really interesting to put into practice for sure.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. Tradespeople. This is a good opportunity. Okay, it's probably too late with your band of brigands over there, or the pirates, but um, many of them will fulfill the expectation. Now, this we get into real nuance here, and it combines, the skill of queuing with also capital D diplomacy to a large extent, but kind of a reverse capital D diplomacy in the sense that um, that when we put out this particular expectation and this queuing, it's all combined. Uh, that we also, especially like with tradespeople, yes, I expect you to be honest. I not expect you to be honest as in, well, I perceive you not to be honest, but I expect you to be honest. That's not going to work, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm treating you as the honest person I see you to be. Now, of course, if I don't see this, then I'm not going to interact with you, right? Unless I absolutely have to. But it's a perception of a reality that I see. Now, I also see, and I de-emphasize this, that, well, not always are you exactly scrupulous and honest, but all right, I'll let it go. With me, you get the opportunity to exercise your goodness, your honor, your nobility. So I create an environment that enables this, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I need to exude that I'm not naive, not blind, I'm not going to be taken advantage of, because many people who do put this out are, of course, profoundly naive and gullible and just get taken advantage of. And this is like waving a red flag to a bull
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
So we want to build that nuance into this, that I expect your impeccability. I expect impeccability from myself, which means I'm going to check and be diligent and be thorough and scrupulous. So whether or not you are trying to get away with anything, I'm not going to allow you to. So save yourself the embarrassment of getting caught by doing it right in the first place. In other words, all of this is a subtle layeredness that we can communicate through, subtlety, implication, intonation, awareness itself. And it's very powerful. It's very
Yeah.
powerful.
Absolutely.
I mean, the key of this, without going into the details, the key of this is to understand that when it comes to interactions, our expectations and our awareness and our cueing, all of this, and expectations are particularly big here, are something that aren't just simple. When we really think about them and we act consciously and deliberately on them and put some forethought into it and some strategy, especially, boy, oh boy, we can make a massive difference to things. Yes?
True.
In other words, that we have a large measure of influence on what happens.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, this found how it's very cool. We have that influence. You know, this is a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's very exciting.
It is.
It's very, very exciting to realize that we're not at the mercy of the world.
Right.
You know, that we can influence and affect the world very profoundly. And without, you know, in the obvious ways that we might believe, you know. So this is really huge. This is really huge.
Absolutely. It is. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Very, very, very big deal.
Absolutely.
That's exciting. That's exciting, no?
It is. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I mean, just to realize that, hey, man, you know what? I'm responsible so much what happens around me. Not entirely, but, you know, when it comes to other people, in other words.
Right.
It's amazing how much we can affect things and people around us.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, with Janelle, she said on her clarity of intent, you know, her list of intents, because she and Ryan are now starting the program again, which is cool. And so she said leadership, this was one of the important issues for her, and she included Ryan as well, right? So they really feel this pull towards leadership in some way. So, you know, now I shifted because Wave Impeccability in its original, well, now even still, when I've set it up, it's geared towards leadership now. At least one of the, not entirely, but one of the points and purposes was towards people in leadership positions. You know, and also, of course, like coaches, same thing. You know, it's also leadership. It's more personal, more direct. And then when it comes to the individual, it's leadership of yourself, right? To be and understand that whether or not you are involved with anyone else at all, just yourself, there's still leadership involved, because you might not connect to anybody else, but you might still be following people in terms of thoughts and beliefs and ideas and ideals and all this, right? But you need to be the leader when it comes to that. Yes? Right. So leadership, and so basically, you know, much of the session and going forward will be, you know, reshifting and understanding of what leadership actually is. You know, most people think of leadership, it's bossiness, it's being a dictator, etc. Now, not in the harsh forms, but most parents, they don't think of themselves as dictators, but they are.
Right.
Right. And it's a horrible way to parent. And so when you connect parenting to leadership, really, and you connect leadership to not being a dictator, and to being connected to whoever it is you are leading, and I refuse to use the words followers, to the participants in your project, when you treat them as participants, and especially treat them as volunteers, even if they're not, it all changes, right? So if we think of ourselves like this, that our participants are our inner aspects, our legacy selves, future self, past self, all of this, right? These are who we are leading. But also when it comes to simple interactions, to realize that once you basically get your stuff together, you become a de facto leader, whether you want to or not. Just being a together person makes you a leader.
Right.
Right? This is a very important understanding, that you are automatically going to get people looking at you and say, whoa, Erica Jane, she's got it together. And they're going to copy what you do. They're going to look closely at what you do. They're going to follow what you do. They're going to imitate and copy what you do, and all of this, right? And apply what you do. They're going to take their lead from you without even realizing it, without even being conscious of it. This is something else. This is something else. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is really, really powerful to understand. It's very, very, very important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very, very important to realize. It's a very big deal.
Absolutely.
So leadership in this case, it's a very big deal. And, especially when we go into the hearing and helping, well, the leadership comes into it in a very big way there too. Um, especially again, when it's the personal relationship. But to understand that, leadership is premised on not telling, but actually sharing,
Mm-hmm.
right? The moment you get told what to do, your enthusiasm wanes, you like get resistant, you even get a bit resentful, and you don't want to know anything. But if things are being shared with you and you're being asked, this is a whole different deal, right?
True.
So leadership is a very peculiar thing. True, real, capital L leadership is a collaboration. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a most profound collaboration, and most people think of a leader as someone who tells others what to do. A real leader listens to others, and they just extrapolate from that and make the obvious obvious. I listen to you, I figure out what you want, and then I tell you what you want because I've listened to you, and you say, oh yes, okay, and then you follow.
Right.
So leadership is really just that. It's knowing what's going on, paying attention, making the obvious obvious. And of course, well, okay, as a leader, you are doing and taking upon yourself, you have a willingness to do what others aren't willing to do. So
Mm-hmm.
leadership generally is just doing extra.
Sure.
You figuring out what needs to be done, you making that effort to think it through to the end. So when people shout ideas out or whatever, you say, yeah, but when you go, yes, okay, all right, never mind, and so on and so forth, right? So you're just making extra effort, and it's that willingness to make extra effort and take it upon yourself to do that extra effort. Nobody appoints you, you take it on yourself. And well, sometimes you do get appointed, but in general, this is what leadership is. It's just the willingness to do more.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
It's something else. It's really something else, with leadership. And to understand this and be aware of it, it's really powerful. It's very, very powerful. Like I said, whether or not you're involved with other people or not, leadership comes into the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. Big time. Because at any time you have any sensibility, any sobriety, any moreness, any impeccability, any depth of character, you're automatically a leader, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, by just not being a default slave to convention, makes
Right.
you a leader.
Sure. Very true.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting. This.
Yeah.
I mention it though because, well, not as far as I know, this is not something that you are overtly pursuing. It may or may not come, but it's good to be aware of. Just because you don't have it as a personal agenda,
Right.
it does not mean that leadership is not part of what you're doing. It
Right.
is just simply because of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're automatically in that bracket, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and some people don't like it being there in it with them. Well, I didn't ask for it. Well, too bad. Whether you ask for it or not, it's there. So we need to be cognizant of this, right? Because you may get unintended consequences, like if you do not exercise your sensibility. You might get inadvertent, or at least you might get resentment, whether it's inadvertent or not. Yeah. It's really interesting. Yeah. Beena had a story with some of her friends, and I don't remember the exact details, but in essence, uh, one of the girls was, she kind of, she was attractive and she had everything going, and she said, but I'm not looking for a husband. And this really irritated the other girls. Because this is their entire life was revolved around, everything is geared towards getting a husband. And they learning, they're trying, they're making themselves more beautiful, educating themselves, doing everything in order to get a husband. And yeah, you've got all the things going your way and you're not doing it. It's like, what a waste. And this really irritated and bothered them, and they were very unhappy with the girl because of it.
Yeah.
So again, see, inadvertent leadership. She didn't think twice about it, but we have to be very careful. So just this awareness that how we are has an effect on others that might not be within our expectations.
Mhm.
This is my connection here, back to
Yeah.
expectations. A long road, but we got there.
Right. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's the journey, not the destination. Right?
Exactly. And it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it
It's
a lot.
very cool. It's very cool indeed.
Yeah. Well, shall we do some session review?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very keen. Yeah.
I love it. By the way,
Where
where are you? Are you
I
at Stevens house?
so I am. Did I show you the motorhome the other time in my garden?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm still on that same property,
Okay.
except I'm in the house that's on the property.
Got
And
it.
the house is semi-empty right now. The owner is staying here. He's fixing up the place, and my friend Christian, and Lindsay was here. I met them both at the same time, more or less. But anyway, she used to live here, but she's moving out, or has moved out most of her stuff now. And so they're fixing the house up, and also converting it to an indoor grow facility, because my friend Christian grows medical marijuana. So he's got the hothouse out there, but the house is more efficient. He has to do less cooling and less heating.
Sure.
So yeah. So there's one room that's already set up, and they're probably going to do the rest as well, because there's 5 bedrooms and kind of large living room, extra space. So anyway, so that's where I'm at now, because the modem happens to be in this room, which was the old Lindsay's old studio. So that's why I'm here, because the modem is here and I'm directly plugged into it. Which I'm not even using the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So this is helping. So until Saturday, this is where I'll come into Zooms, because Saturday I get my booster. Yay! So
that makes sense. I got it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So well, it works for now. I'm keen to, and also just and a bit more research. But I'm looking at the properties. It's pretty slow.
Yeah.
But once I have the booster, I can go anywhere. Wherever there's a cell phone signal. And around Sedona, well, in Arizona in general, there's a lot of government land, and national forest or BLM land, and you can camp on it for free. You just can't stay longer than 14 days. You got to move after 14 days. So even though I don't have the land necessarily, I have everything else to be self-sustaining. So the only thing I do need is, I figured before that my cell phone connection would be enough, because I drive past some of these places when you go from here to Sedona.
Right.
I've driven past them a lot, and I know there's signal there. So I just figured, if I got cell phone signal, it'd be enough. But I have cell phone signal, but that's not enough. It's just even if I leave the phone in exactly the same place, I get dropped, and it just goes away. I don't know how that works. Doesn't make sense, but I guess it's got to do with it. I always thought it was the satellites, but I don't know. It's the cell tower. This is coming from a cell tower, not the satellite. So who knows? But anyway, so the booster should help on that considerably. And then if I really need to, I will get an antenna as well, which extra on top of that, but still. So little by little, we'll get there.
Well,
exciting stuff. I just in my research here now, most of the property, it's out in places that are just desert. They're just flat pieces of earth with nothing on them. So I'm looking, at least you got to have trees, and I wanted to have electricity and water and all this. I found a place in Sedona. In that price range, which this is really unusual. I mean, Sedona is like ridiculously expensive. Now, I don't know if I can go and park on it, but we'll find out. So
well, cool.
I'm gonna go and check it out. Now when we so it's very exciting. I was not aware that there were any properties of this nature in Sedona in this price level range. So it's pretty exciting. So we'll see.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, most awesome indeed.
Very exciting. Okay, let's see. Oh, right. This was the last one. Okay. So I think we left off at the last session of module 10. is exciting at the halfway point. So
yes.
um,
Very exciting. Very exciting. Oh, that reminds me. I think I'm on like module 12 or module 13, somewhere around there.
audio.
The audio, yes. I don't want to get behind. I'm like, oh, panic.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so session 7 of module 10 was vacuous validity.
Nice title.
I know, I like the alliteration there.
Mm.
The repeat back and takeaway I had for this one was that this entire session for me just underscored the concept of there not being a universal right and wrong. And I pulled a quote from somewhere in this session that says, the difficulty with this particular bullshit belief is that when it comes to determining truth, rightness, and goodness, we're really on our own. And I made a note here that I really enjoyed the discussion in this session about responsibility's place in this concept of there not being a universal right and wrong. That, from that quote, once we kind of let go of this concept of myth of agreement and of someone else's idea of right and wrong, when we realize that it's up to us to determine what's right and wrong for us, then we're on our own. It's our responsibility.
Yes.
And it was a really interesting, this session just was an interesting exploration into that concept, and specifically about responsibility's place in this concept of recognizing our own power over setting what's right and wrong for us and what's good and bad for us. That was an interesting discussion. And then the exercise, first question was, provide an example in your life where agreement was taken as validity for being right. How do you determine whether or not something is right for you? And I said, I guess I must not have thought of an example. I skipped that part and went to the next part of the question, and then I didn't ever put an example, so I must not have thought of one. But I said, I think determining rightness or wrongness for myself comes down to thinking something through, examining my feelings and beliefs associated with whatever it may be, and evaluating their appropriateness and making an impeccable choice. I can certainly consider the options of others when making this decision, but their agreement or disapproval no longer plays a leading role in making my decision. And I do think, I think that's a really, really big shift, that
It's huge.
I determine whether something is right or wrong for me through impeccable choice and appropriateness and thinking things through. And part of that is considering the opinion of others and taking that into account when I'm weighing appropriateness and all of that, but it's not the determining factor for me.
Yes. In other words, right there, that's leadership, no?
True.
Self-leadership. Yeah.
Very true. Very true. And then, why is it so extremely important in an overall context that we make our own decisions? What's critical when it comes to decision making and developing and enhancing our awareness? So my answer was, for me, this ties into something I was thinking about earlier this week. Forcing habit replacement or behavior change on someone else who has not yet come to an awareness of why this behavior is necessary, or whether or not the new behavior is right and good for them, may lead to temporary change. But as soon as they are given the opportunity, the unaware folks will go right back to doing what they were doing before, because they didn't come to an awareness or understanding themselves of why it's right for them. When we don't make our own decisions, I think this is one of the consequences. For me, this is an important tie-in with developing and enhancing our awareness. If we're allowing others to make decisions for us, then we aren't advancing in our learning and growing. we may be taking appropriate action, but without the awareness, it won't be a lasting habit that continues without the input of others. Also, making impeccable decisions for ourselves is self-proof for us that we are capable of doing this. And if we allow others to decide for us, we never get the value of this self-proof for ourselves.
Say the last sentence again, please, Erica.
Making impeccable decisions for ourselves is self-proof for us that we are capable of doing this.
Yes.
And if we allow others to decide for us, then we never get the value of this self-proof for ourselves.
Exactly. 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 Oh, that's so huge. So
It
huge.
is. It's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, simple, but
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
wow, wow, wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a really big one for me, especially with my former aversion to decision making. That
Yes.
you know, having other people make decisions for me may result in behavior on my part that is appropriate, but it's completely reliant upon the input of others.
Exactly.
So I'm not, you know, it's not me. It's not me as a standalone entity. It's me requiring the input of other people.
Yes. And this
So
makes you vulnerable, no?
it does, and it, like I said, in this, to me, it prevents real learning and growth. I might be walking the walk and talking the talk and doing all of the quote unquote right things, but it's not a self-sustaining thing. You know, I haven't actually learned or grown. I'm just doing the right action without the awareness underneath. And that's big. I mean, that's a big realization for me.
That's huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's fascinating when we, make that shift into this personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And we take the lead on our own selves.
Right. Right.
It's a big deal.
It is. It's true.
It's very humbling in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but exciting at the same token. You know, it gives one pause. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, let's hope that's Beena again.
Oh, I didn't hear it. Didn't hear the ding.
Yeah, I don't know why they're peculiar. Sometimes we hear it, sometimes we don't. So it is Beena. So.
Oh, good.
I did click admit, but I'm not seeing her. What's happened?
There she is.
There it is. There it is. Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Sarah.
Brilliant. Happy to have you back, Beena. Oh, connecting to audio.
There she is.
Connected to audio. Brilliant. Happy to have you back,
So,
Beena. Happy to have you back. We missed you.
it's raining here. It's raining.
Oh,
Yeah.
happy days. We love rain.
Oh, yes. But this is the sign of having whatever winter we will have in Karachi. This is the first, yeah. So this is good. But my network was enjoying weather anyway.
Nice.
Okay.
Well,
So please continue.
sure. We're going through sessions now. I was just coming to the end of session 7 of module 10.
And the conclusion from the session is, please repeat for Beena, because it was such an important conclusion.
Yeah. Well, so my my repeat back and takeaway from the session was really just appreciating. First of all, I said this session, the discussion that's kind of happening in this session, just further underscores this concept for me of there not being a universal right or wrong, that it is really, it's as appropriate for each individual. And specifically in this session, there's a discussion about responsibilities placed in this overall concept, and about how when we come to the realization that right and wrong and good and bad, that it's our job to determine what that is for ourselves, then we recognize this responsibility that, you know, we're kind of, it's up to us, we're on our own in figuring this out. And so one of the questions was about why it's important to make your own decisions, and what's critical with decision making when it comes to developing and enhancing your awareness. And I was saying that in one aspect, I think when we allow other people to make decisions for us, even if, you know, even if their decision corrects behavior in us that does turn out to be appropriate and good and right for us, it's not really learning and growth. It's just habit. You know, we're just walking the walk and talking the talk. We're not, it's a hollow action. There's nothing, the awareness of why it's good and appropriate and how that decision was reached is not there for us. That's dependent upon something else. And so, you know, we're missing that awareness if we're allowing other people to make the decision for us. And then the last thing I said was making impeccable decisions for ourselves is self-proof for us that we're capable of doing that, of making impeccable decisions. And if we allow others to decide for us, then we never get the value of this self-proof for ourselves. And that's a big one for me, that,
yes.
that, you know, if we let people make decisions for us, we never prove to ourselves that we're capable of doing that. And so we don't really get the full value out of accepting responsibility for making our own decisions and making choices and coming to awareness. You know, it might look like a shortcut to let someone else make a decision for you, but really it's not, because you're missing out on all of that value that you would have gotten if you had made the decision yourself and gone through that.
Exactly. It's a waste. It's a criminal waste, really.
Right?
Oh, interesting.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
Banking is out there. And then the last question in the exercise was, do you perhaps have friends or acquaintances who are in your life merely to bolster your ideas and beliefs? And yeah, it was an interesting question. I said, I'm sure that I did in the past, but at this point, I don't believe I have any friends or acquaintances whose sole purpose in my life is to validate a belief.
What about partial purpose?
What about what?
Partial purpose. You said sole purpose, and you kind of emphasized that.
Well, I mean, I think that's probably, I mean, in being completely honest, I think that's probably how a lot of our friendships form in the beginning. Is based on, you know, belief confirmation of something that we think is right or good or appropriate or whatever. But I think that becomes a real problem when we seek that out as the only reason.
Correct. Or as a major reason, or even as a purpose. It's just a bonus.
Right. Exactly. So I'm sure that there are friendships that do, you know, bolster some idea or belief that I have, but I don't think I have any that is the sole purpose.
No. And again, too, in good friendships, we do like this and want this, but it's not the purpose of the friendship. Because if I respect you, I respect your opinion, and it counts a lot towards myself.
Right.
But it most certainly is not the purpose of the friendship. So it's nuance. It's very important to understand the difference.
I agree. And I said, this is a really interesting thought, though, and certainly something important to keep in mind. It seems a bit calculated and cold at first thought, but I think evaluating your friendships and acquaintances to determine motivation and value is important. If you associate with someone simply because they validate your beliefs, this is something worth being aware of, in my opinion. So definitely something I think is a very thought-provoking idea that, you know, it's important to kind of evaluate our friendships and connections and acquaintances from time to time to make sure that the value that we're getting from those connections is not just bolstering our own beliefs.
Yeah.
It's worth kind of checking in with those relationships every once in a while and making sure that you're getting value out of that in a different way than just reinforcing your own beliefs. That's a big one.
That's very important. That's very important. And just the awareness of it as well. You know, the question raises the question. And that's important right there.
Right.
It's to be,
Right.
okay. And then you think it through and then you say, you know, all the nuance that's attached to it. It's really powerful. Very simple.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, so.
You happy with your friendships right now, Erika Jane?
I am.
I do foresee, and I'll make a prognostication, which I'm very reluctant to do, but I will say that in the future, you have magical friendships coming your way.
Well.
Many of them that's going to blow your mind and make you very happy. Yeah.
I look forward to it for sure.
Yeah. Especially when you move, you know, overseas, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
You will connect to a whole other world that hitherto has not yet existed for you. So.
Yeah, I love that.
It's going to be really fantastic. I can't wait for that. Really.
Me too.
Yeah, but it'll come. You'll see. You know, right now you're in a consolidation phase, putting it all together, consolidating. You're kind of in that cocoon. You know, the transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly.
Right.
But you know, when time is right, then you know you'll leave that cocoon, and it's a necessary cocoon, right?
True.
Yeah. So it's magical, really, really magical. I mean, this is what I see. You know, well, I've always seen the butterfly, but still.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. Okay, so module 11 is co-opting complicity. And the first session is leveraging awkwardness. And my repeat back and takeaway of this session was BMNs take advantage of good people's tendency to avoid causing unpleasantness or confrontation as a way to manipulate them into complicity with their BS. Because of this, good people must take action against BS because our goodness won't allow complicity. And that was a really interesting point of this session to me, sort of thinking through complicity fully and coming to a realization that being complicit is not good, that, you know, that not taking action against something that is not appropriate or right or good for us and for others does not go with our intent to goodness. And so, you know, we kind of logic ourselves into action by recognizing that complicity is not actually, you know, I think we tend to have, I certainly did have this correlation sort of between non-confrontationalism, not causing discomfort in someone else, and being good, and recognizing that, you know, that's sort of a logic bubble, that it doesn't really work that way. It sort of forces us into action as a result of our intent to goodness. That's an interesting thought process to me.
It forces us into what? Say again, please.
Into action.
Right, action. Yeah.
So the first exercise, or the first question in the exercise was, what are the consequences of allowing a manipulator to manipulate us once, no matter how small? And my answer was, I think one consequence is that the manipulator now knows that you can be manipulated, so they will try again.
Yes.
allowing manipulators to discover in what ways they can manipulate us, even for small things, gives them leverage over us the next time they try.
Yeah, exactly. You open that door, and once
Right.
they get their foot in, boy, they just want to come and stomp all over things. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, this is like a gift from heaven for them.
Right, right. Absolutely. That's a good point. And then what's the ethical problem with complicity? Yes, it's somewhat of an obvious question, but make the argument anyway. And I said, I think the ethical problem with complicity for me is that if we see something harmful happening, but we choose to stand by when we could have chosen to act against it, this goes against our intent to goodness. We can argue with ourselves that our non-action also sources from that same intent to goodness, as we don't want to make others uncomfortable or cause distress. But for me, this illustrates that goodness and badness or rightness and wrongness are not binary. They involve lots of nuance, and sometimes allowing a large transgression to go unchecked when we have the power to stand against it is more in line with our intent to goodness than our desire to be considerate of everyone's feelings. Acting upon what is right and good according to us, the things which we've thoroughly thought through and found to be appropriate, is the ultimate expression of our intent to goodness.
Yes. Now, when you're being complicit in that way, that inadvertent complicity through non-action, ethically, are you not also then responsible for inadvertently condoning what the BMN is doing?
Right, right.
Which now you are ethically responsible to some degree for aggravating their condition and enabling them and legitimizing them to keep perpetuating this, right?
Right.
So ethically, you are in your complicity causing problems for others.
True.
Yeah, not cool, right?
Right.
So something.
Absolutely.
It's a big thing. So we got to do what we can. Now it's a tricky question, because how much do you interfere? How much do you leave things alone?
Right.
But I don't necessarily need to interfere to not be specifically complicit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So my awareness to say, no, I don't agree with this. I'm not going along with you. What you do is your choice. That's it. But I'm not signing off on it. I'm not even inadvertently going to do this. Nope, nope, nope. Sorry. No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we can't go around objecting to everything. We won't have any time to live. So we have to find a means of doing this and a balance to say, there's a difference between objecting and being inadvertently complicit, right?
True.
Yeah. That's an important distinction, so that we don't get caught up in this notion of being in combat, conflict, all this. You don't need to be. Just don't be complicit. There's a difference, right?
Absolutely. It's true. Very true.
Yeah.
So the last question of this exercise was, when is inappropriate tolerance appropriate? And I never came up with an answer for this one.
All right. So when like in the supermarkets, when you see the little children screaming and the mothers are they're too wimpy, and then they just they don't want to do anything about it because they don't want to look bad in front of the kid. They don't want to be the bad guy or whatever. It's nonsense like that. This is when it's an opportunity for inappropriate tolerance. Sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah, so I think Beena was trying to say, will you repeat the question? I think that's what
Yes, I was.
The question was, when is inappropriate tolerance appropriate?
So my example was off. I thought I had it wrong halfway through.
Okay.
Inappropriate, tolerance, appropriate.
Right.
I have an example for this. I have an example for this.
Okay.
Okay. And it is not personal, but okay, in a roundabout way. Pakistan as a country. I was reading in an article about Pakistan. Some ex-foreign minister of US said that, and it was like a big thing for me. I was reading about that, and he says that the problem with Pakistan is lack of intolerance. Okay, and he said that, and I was reading that. For me, that was a really interesting way to say something. He didn't say that they are coward or okay, they are not like capable to do anything. He simply said that lack of intolerance, and that stuck in my mind. That why it is so. And he go further and he said that what they do is whenever they have a problem, they lock it and then throw that key in the river and just forget and assume that, oh, nothing happened. And after that, I was trying to observe what is happening in Pakistan and what is our policies and how as a nation we behave and all that. And somehow he was right. That yes, we have that. We let things happen. And then the time, like when it gets really bottleneck, and then we said, okay, just how to get rid of it. And sometimes just a very weird way to deal with situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, this lack of intolerance as a government or as a nation itself was really interesting. But it works for Pakistan.
Right.
So it was inappropriate tolerance, but it works appropriately because in nation's life, decades are just like days and centuries are like years. Mm-hmm. And we are relatively, you can say that, we are just an infant, 70 years old now almost. So it is nothing. And because we have a lot of different group of people, different languages, people came from different backgrounds, and they are living together. And this newborn country is dealing with a lot of situation. Yes, also it contributes to aggravate some problems, but also it helps us to stay, to be content, like really, otherwise Pakistan's survival would be really impossible. Mm-hmm. Sometimes inappropriate tolerance also works because we just let things be, especially in our country. So people start getting realized that, okay, some losses, some setbacks, but still people are becoming aware.
Yeah. So
that was because also there are a lot of factors. I don't want to go into politics details, but when a country have 80% of population uneducated and living in rural area because we are agricultural country.
Wow.
How can you expect something revolutionary happen like this? So right. It was appropriate to not have that tolerance, or you can say that inappropriate application of tolerance was good for us. Mm-hmm. It's very tricky. Always I get confused at how to say that. But yes, I see that on a country level. I see that, and it works. Sometimes it works. Yeah. There are a lot of details in that, which I don't want to go into politics details. But yes, it works. It works. Inappropriate tolerance works.
Yeah. I mean, the key is, on this question, we're playing a little bit with appropriate and inappropriate. And it's basically just, there's a nuance, there's a range to say, sometimes it might seem inappropriate in the beginning, but in the bigger context, it's actually appropriate. So it's contextual awareness to say, in a small context, maybe it's inappropriate, in a bigger context, it's appropriate.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I have some personal examples of this, but right now I'm not actually getting all these things together in my mind. I will share that. But yes, definitely it works sometimes.
Yeah.
That inappropriate tolerance also works. And one, sorry, please. Okay, no, it is not in this context, but what you were sharing, Erica, before about suffering and pain. Very famous concept, if I'm not wrong, from Sadhguru, that pain is physical and suffering is mental.
Right, right.
And this was really interesting for me when I just read that. And the more we think about that, the more it makes sense.
Okay.
The more connections too, because again, it comes to capital C choice, what we choose to. And again, it comes to that being in this moment. Suffering is a more, I was thinking about that and try to think it through to the end, because sometimes some situations, some happenings are actually grow with you. They do grow with you. So you cannot say that entirely all these sufferings are just dependent on your choice.
Right.
Yes, majority of it, yes. But sometimes just one incident in your life changes your whole dynamics of your life. And everything around you and inside you changes after that. Sometimes people go through some incidents and it happens with them. So they're suffering. Yes, they move on, they live their life, but their life changes it. And this is where I feel that I saw struggling with that, okay, yes, I'm happy and I'm peaceful, I'm at peace and all that. And suddenly they say, no, I'm breaking down again. Because that thing which changes everything for them is still not have a resolution. So yes, it is capital C choice, suffering, but also it needs some sort of perspective shifting, other than just being entirely responsible and assuming ourselves absolutely responsible for everything.
Right.
Yeah, I know that there is it needs some detail, because sometimes you are not able to take any responsibility, and sometimes it is not dependent or not in your area of influence where you can do something about that. I see people, a lot of people, like acid attack. It's a big thing in India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, people do struggle. They move on, but their life change. So their suffering is constant.
Right. Right.
Suffering is constant. Sometimes in some situation, but not in all situation, of course. Majority of the situations, in majority of situations, we can actually choose to not suffer from those pain. So it is for me, even it's a Sadhguru's saying that pain is physical and suffering is mental.
Right.
But I was thinking about that, and I say that not 100%. There is always more.
Right.
Is always more. You cannot be absolute in these type of concepts, because people are different, their life stories are different, situations are different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, that's really interesting. Excellent point. Still is deep in thought.
Yeah, I'm thinking about attunement too. That, when it comes to this balance between appropriate tolerance and inappropriate tolerance, and just general interactions with people like BMNs, that much of it comes down to attunement in the end. Looking at the bigger long-term overall picture. And sometimes we can do things via attunement, which might be contrary to what we would typically do. And this is an important point to understand. It's a very important point to understand. There's a bigger picture in play. And sometimes we get required to do things that are outside of our normal boundaries or outside of our usual doings, or might even seem completely opposite to what we would normally do. But hey, that's part of the deal sometimes. It's pretty interesting, that things are not that consistent always. There are exceptions. There are exceptions.
True.
Again, so it is coming down to appropriateness, yes?
Yes, and expectations.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, expect the more and don't expect things to always be the same. And just because they've always been this way in the past, it doesn't mean that they need to stay that way, because, it's 99 times out of 100 that's safe. What happens when you get to number 100?
Right.
Yeah, so don't have expectations of continuity, in other words, of sameness, of repeat.
Absolutely. That was one of the things I loved from Dr. Shafali's thing that I was listening to this morning. She said something like, I'm gonna have to find what she said. It made me laugh. It was like, here it is. Are you having a tantrum because you don't like reality as it is? And I love that when you're in that 100, when things have always been the same, and then you find yourself in that 100th reality, are you experiencing, all this turmoil and whatever because you're throwing a tantrum because you don't want to be in the 100th thing? Well, you are, that's reality. So,
exactly.
I love that.
Exactly. And you knew it could happen, so you chose to remain alive knowing it could happen. So no complaints. Thank you very much. No complaints. By the way, feel free to invite Dr. Shafali to Zoom anytime you like. More than welcome.
I will be sure to do that, and
And I'm very serious. You'll be surprised. Sometimes you can just reach out. You say, you never know. A lot of people that are in circumstances like that, we assume they're inaccessible, but not always. And sometimes, just if you really something that you would like to do, you send it out, and you never know. You never know. Same thing with Kathy, of course. I've made that before, but I'll just repeat.
Oh yeah. But Shafali, Dr. Shafali is here, and she is been in our sessions.
Oh yeah.
True.
Yeah. So we are discussing, we are sharing, we are having her perspective. So it is good. About this tantrum, I had a very funny but an awkward situation when I was working at Arts Council and assisting a main lead character of the drama. It was a historical TV play, and it changes everything in Pakistan TV drama and all that. So it was a big deal, and they were doing that stage drama based on that. And the top actors, the top directors, the top technicians involved in that. And I was assisting the main lead of that character. I was the personal assistant to that. And she was the one who was being able to communicate in Urdu very well. And also she had because she was vegan, and she was also very particular about so many things. Right. So Arts Council said, okay, Beena.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Exactly. So Arts Council actually, I was not interested to do that, but Arts Council actually, my boss said that, Beena, we need you there, so please do that. And I said, okay. So when I was doing that particular character, that lady, she was struggling because all other actors were very senior and experienced and very famous, and she was a new one.
Okay.
And she was struggling with her persona. She wants to be in that category. So my job as assistant is to take care of everything. And she was having these panic attacks that, they are not asking me, they are doing this and they are doing this. So I was trying to do as much as I can. Good. So in the discussion with my colleagues, I just said that, okay, Sarah, she has some tantrums, but she's a star, it's okay. They do have. In my mind, I was making her as a star because I was treating her as a star. That was my job. and someone just told her. And she just came to me, Beena, did you really say that I have tantrums? And I said,
Oops.
And I was like, I was in a very awkward situation, and other my friends were saying that they were standing behind her, and they were saying that, Beena, just refuse it. Simply, no, I didn't do that. And I said, yes, Sarah, I said that. They were like, oh my God, they were like, Beena, and that was the most inappropriate place to say that, because she will have all those actual tantrums. But I said that, yes, Sarah, I said that. And she says, but where you saw that? How? When? And she was just like bursting questions. And I said, Sarah, I did what I feel. And this was right for me. And I'm still sticking to my perspective.
Right.
Okay, Beena, we will not. Okay. And second day, she was with me. But
too, of course.
that was really a panic attack for whole Arts Council. That what Beena did. That tantrum is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that was inappropriate tolerance being appropriate.
Yes. She was good after that, but at that moment, everybody was actually waving their hands like, Beena, just say that. No.
Right. Right.
And I said, no, Sarah, I said that. Yes.
Yeah, good for you.
And I am still.
Good for you. Yeah.
Oh, that. Unless or until it is something really bad for someone else, I completely always accept that whatever I said and whatever I do, no matter what.
Very cool. Very cool.
This was funny. I was in a really bad situation.
That's really funny. I love it.
Yes.
You know?
Very exciting.
Sometimes you just have to share your truth. So
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. Again, it's doing what you might not do ordinarily. You know, it's appropriate in that situation. And again, attunement came into it. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, she was actually saying that I'd just be my personal assistant other than the drama. And she offered me a lot of things happened after that, because she realized that I was trying to build her image as a star of that drama, though she was not.
and I mean, it's interesting, not everyone certainly, but I think some people really appreciate and thrive in an environment where people are honest with them and don't just tell them what they want to hear.
Yes.
So when someone sees that, you know, in you, then they're like, okay, this is not a yes person, you know, they're going to be honest with me.
Yeah.
So, not everyone appreciates that, but some people do.
Yeah.
No. Whole Arts Council was like, really, Beena, you ruined everything today.
Right.
Not come tomorrow, and it's all on you. And I said, okay, we will see. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's amazing how we can go, and when we unhook from expectation. Sorry, I'm still on the expectation kick. When we unhook from expectations of sameness, how much magic opens up. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Oh yes, really.
Yeah.
This is really amazing, and mood shifting, and actually deliberately acquiring mood. I saw that on backstage again when artists they do, like they were doing jamming and all that. That was actually deliberately having a particular mood, and that was something really magical for me. I saw that they were coming irritated, not in a good mood. Some are like really angry, some were lazy, sleepy. But when they start doing that was the activity. So then I realized that what jamming concept is all about, and how they actually deliberately choose a particular specific mood.
Right.
So it is possible. It is possible to shift mood.
Oh yeah, it is. Otherwise, we won't have any acting. We'd have no entertainment. We'd have no, none of that would exist.
Exactly.
Very left. I do have to go as soon as we hit 2 o'clock so that I can go pick up some more groceries. I have my last grocery push before Thanksgiving, so.
All right. Oh, wow. So are you doing anything special for Thanksgiving? Or
no, just hanging out here with Mom and Dad.
that is special. That is special.
So, yeah, I agree.
That is special. Yeah.
I agree.
So Thursday, that reminds me then.
Oh, that's a good point. Thursday
Yes.
will be cooking day.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you won't be here, and I'm assuming neither will Kay, right?
Probably true. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. Because for me, Thanksgiving, it's like any other day. So.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But that's okay. We can skip this Thanksgiving. That's not a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah, we can all. I guess we can all come on during Joe's time and on Friday and hang out.
Exactly. So. Just make Friday longer. Come
it's
on.
A good point. Glad you brought that up. I had not even thought about that.
Yeah.
So okay. So before I have to jump off here, I might be able to get through a little bit of the next session. So. Session 2 of Module 11 was implied endorsement. And my repeat back from this was to counteract a BMN's trickery when it comes to forced agreement. We can withhold our friendliness, even if just for a few seconds, until we are certain our goodness won't be misused. We can also use a simple no to show that we see their intent.
Yeah.
This was an interesting session to me of different tools and things we can use to basically be deliberate in our interactions with other people. So that was this was an interesting concept. The first question was, when we look at scenarios such as have been laid out in the session, what can we do to preemptively prepare? And the scenario was basically a BMN saying, I'm sure you'll all agree, or I'm sure Joe will agree. And kind of forcing someone into agreeing. And then at the end, it kind of went through different things that you to subvert that. What can we do to preemptively prepare for scenarios such as have been laid out in the session? And I said, I like the suggestion from the session of practicing deliberateness in our interactions with others, learning to recognize BMNs and to deliberately withhold positivity and friendliness until we know who or what we're dealing with. This is an interesting one when it comes to application, though, as I'm sure this requires a lot of nuance to be appropriately withheld while not being overtly negative or decidedly unfriendly.
Yes.
I think starting with just being deliberate in our interactions is a good first step.
Yes, Erica Jane, yes. Just being deliberate, transformative. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
There's a lot of nuance involved.
Lots.
It seems to me, and so
yes.
It seems like that's something that comes with time and practice. So the first step you can take is just paying attention to how you're being deliberate with other people.
Exactly, and I'll leave you with
and I think that was one of the
inadvertent commitment.
Inadvertent
commitment.
What? Commitment. Okay.
Commitment. Yeah. So when we pay attention to this, somebody comes along and they're the best friend in the world. Now they might not be a man, but if you don't pay attention to inadvertent commitment, the next thing you are their best buddy and expecting you to come around for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Right. Where you like, I don't know you from Adam.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, slow down. But you have to enact, in other words, take active steps to preemptively not get tangled in an inadvertent commitment. And this applies, like I said, not just to BMNs, but to a great range of people.
Right.
So this is an important thing to understand, to pay attention for. What are the implications of my actions? Am I inadvertently getting entangled in a commitment of not of my own doing? And that means I have to take, because you can just do nothing and be in a commitment. That's the point.
Right. Well, and I think that was one of the interesting points of this session to me, was basically not, I forget how it was stated in the session, but the idea was not sort of approaching our interactions with other people as automatic.
Correct. Yeah.
Instead of automatically falling into sort of habit with how we interact with other people, to treat each interaction with deliberateness.
Yes.
And just automatically engage with people in a specific way.
Yes. I hope you get the opportunity to practice this.
Me too. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does being, quote, other factor into strategies of non-complicity and refusing to be leveraged without being difficult or causing a scene? And I said, the use of the word other here reminds me of the concept of ambiguity from a few sessions back. Remembering that everything isn't black and white as BMNs like to present it. Introducing the concept of other and of limitless possibilities beyond the limited options being presented by the BMN allows us to sidestep the agree or disagree corner that BMNs try to back us into.
And even more so, what I love is how this is coming full circle, nicely brings us around back to expectations. Because when we are other, this other automatically puts us out of the box of expectation.
Right.
That's its magic, right? So, because even nice people can inadvertently box you and limit you and hamper and restrict you with their expectations, right? So when I'm other, don't expect me to always be the way you believe I am and should. No. Thank you very much. I don't want to be limited by that.
That was one of the things that really stood out to me, and I still really want to do this, and I think I've said this in my answer to the last question. I really am interested in doing the diplomacy, I don't know if it's a course or just a single session, or whatever, but that's so interesting to me because that really stuck out to me from our discussion of that, I don't know, last week, where we were talking about ambiguity and about how by just introducing the recognition of there being other options besides what's being presented, that is a totally perspective shifting concept that doesn't directly disagree with what anyone's saying. It doesn't really directly agree either. It's just saying, you're giving me this binary agree or disagree, or this is how it is, and black and white kind of thing, and saying, but what about all of these other options? And that's such a fascinating way of subverting the BMN, or to your point, good, nice people, just stepping out of that, well, I have to live within this box, and saying, but what about all of these other things?
Yes, avoiding expectation traps.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they can come from benign sources.
Right. That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. And I think that goes back to the concept of that you shared a long time ago with me in some of our first sessions about there always being another option. There's always another option. There's always a choice, because all of the things that are presented in front of us are just based out of our own expectations, our own, we are limiting ourselves to these things. There's always other options. There's always more. That's a really big shift.
It's huge. Huge. Unless you want to do more, but I was going to say that's a good point for your exit. I don't want you to be late.
Yep, I got to go get my groceries before they.
Brilliant. Oh, so fantastic. So many things to think about, and to apply and integrate. Oh, just love it. Every time, I get expanded, I get stretched. Oh, it's too fantastic. Right, Beena?
Absolutely.
I get overwhelmed sometimes at the magic.
Me too.
Really cool. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right. So we'll maybe see you just for a hello and a hi on Thursday. If not, I'll take the day off and go exploring. Maybe I'll go look at properties or something. So
that'd be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so we'll see you on Friday then. Otherwise.
Okay, that sounds
Very
good.
cool.
Okay.
All right.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Thank you, guys.
Brilliant. Oh, so much, so much. So love you, and I said, Beena, Erica, Jane. What's that, Beena?
Love you too.
Yes.
Saying that happy Thanksgiving in advance.
Yes. Very
Please,
much.
you guys.
Yes, yes. I'm giving thanks already just for knowing you. So,
Me too. Me too.
yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant.
All right.
Bye-bye, Erica. Bye-bye, Erica. Oh, my thing is all frozen here, Beena. I can't end anything. So I'll just have to wait.
Okay. Okay. I guess you dropped. No. Okay.
It's all frozen. I don't know. I mean, I can hear you, but my mouse has got a little hourglass on it, so I can't hit end recording. So
it's okay. Okay.
yeah, but I mean, I may have to end the whole session, so I can't get out of this.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm assuming it's still recording. So all right. So what I'm
Yes,
going to
it
do
is.
now, Beena, you saw that listing for the one in Sedona, right? So
Yes.
oh, did it end? No. Hey, there we go. Still won't let me click on it. Anyway, so while we've got a few minutes here now, I'm actually going to drive out there, Beena, and
Okay.
go and see what it looks like. So it has everything except septic, which is not the end of the world.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. It's in the county, not in the city. So maybe it doesn't say in the listing there, if mobile homes are acceptable. Typically in Sedona, not so much. But it depends. You see, there are some areas. So I want to go and look at it actually, and see, what the deal is. So
Good.
yeah. So I don't know if there's
Okay.
say owner financing, but it's somewhat rare. This might be an opportunity just to buy and flip the property. I've never seen a property in Sedona at that price.
Okay. Okay. So good.
So I don't know if there's owner financing involved or not. If it's owned by the bank, I couldn't tell. So anyway, yeah, come on, my cursor. It's not allowing me. There we go. Maybe. Okay, stop recording. It's very slow.